Hello friends, happy Sunday. Today is the first day of the Queer Lit Readathon, which I'm taking part in. It's a week-long readathon where you read only queer literature. So I've got quite a large TBR here. My plan for the week is to read 100 pages every day to try and kickstart and make sure that I'm doing reading through the week, because I don't often read during the week. I tend to do a lot of my reading at the weekends. So to make sure that I am reading throughout the readathon, I'm going to challenge myself to read 100 pages every day, so that'll be fun. Let me show you what I have on my TBR and what books I could potentially be reading in this vlog. I'm very much a rude reader, so let's see, but I'll show you my book collection here. Okay, here's the book collection I have. Where to start? I have quite a few novels. I think Who Killed My Father's novel, but I think it's probably based on real lived experience. That's kind of what Édouard Louis tends to do. And then a memoir here, We've Always Been Here. I have poetry, Don't Call Us Dead. I have 2 graphic novels, also Patrick Gale's Rough Music, which is what I'm currently reading. And then I have quite a few audiobooks. Beyond Trans, When Katie Met Cassidy, and Over the Top, so 2 non-fiction and 1 fiction. So I have really quite a selection to choose from. So I'm currently listening to Beyond Trans and I'm currently reading Rough Music and really enjoying this. I'm probably over the halfway point in this now and have been marking my pages. I've been reading this morning. Also did quite a bit of cleaning this morning, so I've marked my audiobook. So I'm kind of trying to keep track of that, which will be a bit more challenging, I think. But yeah, I'm really enjoying what I'm reading so far. We are going to go for a walk just now, so I might show you some clips of our little walk and take you with us, and I'll keep you updated on what I read and how I get on with my 100 pages today. I think I have done about 80, but I'll total that up soon and let you know. Did it. Day 1 has been a success. I've read 100 pages of Rough Music alone, and I also read about 25 to 30 pages, I think it worked out, of Beyond Trans, the non-fiction book I was listening to the audiobook of. Really enjoying Rough Music so far. I've only got less than 100 pages now to read, and it's got quite a lot of mystery in it now. It's got mystery connected to the prison and mystery connected to the family, so it's interesting to see those play out, and kind of reading a lot faster now that I've got into that section of it, and kind of curious to find out how it's all going to settle and what the plot resolve will be. It's also interesting because there's things that are kind of a little bit dated in the writing compared to Take Nothing With You, which is the more recent book by Patrick Gale that I've read. But I am enjoying it, really enjoying it still. And I might even continue reading this evening. I'm now in the evening time. I've been taking part in some reading sprints that Lois was hosting, and so that was really nice. And I got a wee chunk of reading done during that. Dinner's just about ready, so I'll probably go and eat dinner and have a chill. I'm a bit nervous about the rest of the week, being able to read 100 pages a day, because I do read Patrick Gale's writing quite slowly, so I might need to change books to kind of be able to reach that 100 pages on some days. I'm not sure, but I've only got 100 pages left in Patrick Gale's book, so I might finish it quicker than I think, but yeah. Okay, it's time for a reading update because I have just finished Rough Music by Patrick Gale. I realised I didn't actually explain what this is about because I have mentioned it in a couple of videos. I think I mentioned it in my summer TBR and then more recently in a currently reading update. But in case you didn't watch those videos or just kind of stumbling across my channel through this video, this book is about a family who go to visit a beach house, and it brings up a lot of old memories for them. I think that's probably the briefest way I can explain it. It's very complex, very sort of complex family dynamics. A lot of sort of quite difficult themes explored, which is not unusual for Patrick Gale's work, or what I know of it, and kind of hearing Patrick Gale speak about his work, that's not an unusual thing. It's also quite a slow read, slow paced. It does have two kind of central mysteries, which we don't really find out the resolve of until near the end of the book. And so that kind of keeps you reading. One of the things I really like is that he doesn't write perfect characters. His characters are flawed, and we explore the kind of flawedness of being human together through his works, and I really enjoy that. There's an interview with Patrick Gale on the back of this where he says that this is based somewhat on his own lived experience. His father was a prison governor, which the father in this book is. So that was interesting. I didn't know that about Patrick Gale, so that was interesting to learn. And I think he writes and says that basically the central character, the Will character in this book, is somebody who he kind of sees himself in, or who he kind of wrote with quite a lot of his own lived experience going into, which was really interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't know whether or not I would give it 3 or 4 stars, I'm not really sure. It wasn't as strong, I don't think, as Take Nothing With You, which I really liked by Patrick Gale, but then this was published in 2004 versus Take Nothing With You being, I think, 2018, so you know, it's a lot more backlist. But yeah, definitely one that I definitely recommend Patrick Gale's writing. Give it a go and see, especially if you like slow paced kind of tales of family and psychological kind of explorations. I find his work really interesting. So I should say as well, that is my 100 pages for the day. I read 100 pages of that. I stayed up way too late last night and then read some on my lunch break, so despite it only being dinner time just now, I've already read my 100 pages, which is amazing. I also listened to quite a lot of a non-fiction book that I have on audiobook from my library, and it's called Beyond Trans, and it's by Heath, Fogg, Davis, and I'm really enjoying that. I think it's very intellectually stimulating, very interesting. What Heath, Fogg, Davis does is he takes policies and looks at them and sort of examines whether or not the way they are used and weaponised against people, and it's not just trans people. What Heath, Fogg, Davis argues is that these kind of policies actually harm cis people as well, because they force people into gender stereotypes, and so it's a very interesting arguments that he's making. But yeah, it's just very interesting. It's reminding me of like studying at university and reading academic texts, and I believe Heath, Fogg, Davis is actually a professor, and he sort of specialises in issues affecting transgender people and gender issues. Yeah, I'm 75% of the way into that, so I should finish that up this week, hopefully. I'm not sure what else I will read next. I tend to like an audiobook and a physical book on the go, sort of as my full-time reads at the same time, so I might have to think on that. I'm going to have dinner, have a night off reading probably, because I have read, I think, just under 200 pages between the audiobook and the physical book, and yeah, I just want a little break from it. So I will rejoin you tomorrow with hopefully some more reading and reading something new, and looking forward to that. So while I was filling in my journal for this month, I would just kind of show you my spreads for the month, because I realised I didn't do a spread setup video like I usually do, which is because I'm planning to post a sort of mid-year flip through of my journal, so I didn't want to show it and then show it again only a matter of weeks later. But this is the June spread, and then I also created a spread for the Queer Lit Readathon, so I'm really pleased with how that turned out. I think it looks really cute and I like both spreads. So I just thought I would fill that in while I've got you on the video. I didn't really think through what colours I would use for this, so I'm just going to use sort of random rainbow colours, sort of in the theme of the rainbow theme. So I'm counting Rough Music as a hard-hitting contemporary, which might be a bit controversial, because partially it's set in the, I think maybe 80s or 60s, I'm not really sure. I don't know if it's actually explicitly stated in the book. There's also a contemporary plot where the part of it's set in the contemporary day, and it is a hard-hitting book. Dementia is explored. Also, infidelity is a huge theme in that book. Very interesting, but yeah, definitely hard-hitting, so I'm counting it. I'm also going to count it for summer vibes because it's set in a beach house in Cornwall, and it is sort of in the summer. It's very summery feeling. In fact, it's been raining quite a lot here recently, as you will have seen in my walk, but also just day-to-day life. It's very wet, so it doesn't feel like summer here, which is quite strange to read a book that was so much set like on the beach, people sunbathing. Safe to say my envy was through the roof. But yeah, definitely summer vibes with that book. I'm going to keep the colours in line with which books they are and see if we can get a rainbow by the end of the week. That's maybe a bit ambitious, but let's just see. I also finished Beyond Trans, which was non-fiction. There's not a non-fiction, it's not a memoir, it's more of a kind of academic style. And it technically isn't set on my continent, but Iceland is sort of between the American and European continents. Not sure if that's their official names, and so I'm not sure about counting it for that. It is intersectional, so I'm going to count it for that, and I'm thinking I might also count it for underrepresented identity. I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure that I will be able to get a bingo in this round. Because a lot of them I'm not sure what I would count for them, so I'm just going to take that as it comes, and if I get a bingo that's great, but it's all about the taking part and all that kind of stuff. So yep, that's my little bingo board as it stands just now. Just a very quick reading update before I go to sleep. I have read about 140 pages of this today. That's where I started at the start of the day, and I've read quite a lot of it. Really, really loving it. Hoping to give a full update and kind of talk about it a bit more tomorrow when I'm hoping that I will finish it. I've only got about 50 pages left, so yeah, really loving it and looking forward to finishing it off. Super, super compelling memoir. Can't stop reading it, to be honest. So yeah, it's a good one, and I'll check in with you tomorrow with some more thoughts. I am shattered this morning. This coffee is definitely needed. I moved my coffee cup into the sun to kind of say, oh look, there's sunshine at last after weeks of cloud, and then the sun has sort of disappeared again, at least not as bright as it was a minute ago. So, oh, look, it's coming back. Lovely! Reading update time. I have finished my current read, We Have Always Been Here, and that was 50 pages of 100 pages. That I was due to read today. I really, really loved this. I think it's probably a 5-star read for me. Certainly up there with my favourites of the year so far. I thought it was really beautiful. And I just loved learning about Samra Habib's lived experience through this memoir. I thought it was just really special. So glad I read this. I wanted to read a quote that I sort of tabbed while I was reading. So let me just find it just now. So Samra Habib is talking about her sexual identity and kind of her relationship with queerness, and she says, I wouldn't let the fact that I was coming out of a relationship with a man make me feel that I wasn't queer enough. Being queer, I learned, is so much more than who you sleep with. It's who you are, whether that means rejecting traditional gender roles or embracing non-normative identities and politics. I just thought that was really well said and very true to the kind of tone that Samra Habib uses throughout the book. I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed her writing style and what she had to tell us in her story. Just really, really enjoyed it. I don't know what else to say beyond that. Really captivating memoir. Could have spent another 200 pages learning about her and her experiences and kind of sitting in some of the moments that she shares with us. Just really moving stuff. Had me in tears at one point. Really, really brilliant. So that was 50 pages. I still have to read another 50 pages to meet my 100 pages a day goal. I'm thinking that I'm going to give myself an easier ride because today's just been a little bit difficult. I had really bad anxiety, which I think was brought on by too much coffee. Coffee's a bit of a trigger for my anxiety. So I'm thinking tonight it will be a case of just having a cosy one, and I'm thinking that if I read a comic it might be quite a good one. So I have Moonstruck volumes 1 and 2, which I think I'll read, and I wasn't sure how long they are. There's no page lengths, like no page numbers in them, but according to the internet they're 120 pages each, so I think that'll be a good way to kind of meet my page goal still, but read something that's hopefully lovely. These are supposed to be fantasy rom-coms. I read the first chapter and I'm kind of intrigued to see where it goes. I'm not sure, the pitching seems quite young, seems almost YA, but I could be wrong with that, and I'm just going to enjoy reading it and getting lost in this little sort of fictional world. That's my reading plan for tonight. I'm also going to put up a poll on Instagram to get people to choose my next sort of novel that I read. I'm going to read a novel next. But yeah, I'm going to put it on Instagram and see how you all vote for my next read, and I'll let you know that tomorrow. Okay, so I actually ended up DNFing the Moonstruck graphic novel that I was reading last night. I read half of it, about 60 pages I reckon, so I got my 100 pages for the day, but I just wasn't really enjoying it, and I just thought like there's no point in continuing this and sort of pushing yourself to read through it for what gain kind of thing. So I DNF'd it. And then today I have yet to start a new book. So checking the Instagram poll, it looks like we have a very clear winner, and that is Felix Ever After with I think 75% of the vote, so kind of overwhelming majority. So I'm going to start this now and read the first chapter and see what I think. I'm quite excited to read it. I've heard good things. I heard sort of more mixed things recently. Curious to see what I'll think of it. I think I'll probably have quite a good vibe or a good idea what I think of it after the first couple of chapters. So I'll give you a wee update once I've read some of it. Okay, my face has decided that I'm going to have some terrible outbreaks, so I'm giving you an angle of the book to save you that. But I'm really enjoying Felix Ever After, and I started also another audiobook called Being Jazz, which is a sort of memoir by a young transgender teen. Really interesting so far. I actually managed to listen to 38% of it, just doing sort of data tasks at work, which is good. So I think that's like my 100 pages for the day with that alone, and then I'm on page 30 of this book and enjoying it, intrigued by it, curious to continue. Quite a lot of explicit language so far, so if you don't like that in books, this one might not be for you, but yeah, I'm curious about it. I'm going to go for a walk now, I think, and just kind of get out of the house and get some fresh air and stuff like that. So I will take you with me. I'm going to listen to maybe some music or something like that. I might even go for a run. I can't quite decide between a walk and a run. Something to just have some fresh air. Might be good for my skin as well. So I'll take you with me, and yeah. I've just baked some banana bread and it's fresh out of the oven, so we're having that with some ice cream, and we're watching a chick flick called Like a Boss. Not to make you jealous, but Chris bought us a Thai takeaway for dinner. I'm very, very excited for it. I'll show you when it's all out. It's pretty nice, you know. I made a bit of a mess unpacking it, but there's our delicious dinner. And we've got a film. What's the film tonight, Chris?
The Perfect Man. Or Perfect Date.
Perfect Date.
Freudian slip.
I don't know if anyone else has a similar experience, but when I was younger, we used to have books bought for us by our parents in my house, but the kind of preference was for the library, I guess, and books were kind of always considered something of a luxury and something that was more special, and so you didn't buy all the books that you read, which I think bleeds into my adult life. Like, I don't buy all the books I read. I'm an avid user of my library, and I used to have this kind of feeling that the price of a book, you were almost like getting a better deal if the book was longer, and so I had like a bit of a preference for longer books because I felt like you were really getting your money's worth, if that makes sense. And I would say to a certain extent that I still kind of feel that way. I think there's something kind of ingrained about that, about kind of a preference for even a full novel, 300 pages or something, over a shorter book, because when they're priced the same, it doesn't make sense to me that they're priced the same. It just, in my head, the logic of it just isn't there. But if there was anybody who would challenge that logic and make me buy a shorter book for the full price, it would be Édouard Louis. I've just finished the second of his books. This one was more non-fiction than History of Violence. History of Violence, which features in my favourite LGBTQIA plus books recommendation video that I posted this week. By the time you're seeing this, it will be last week, but I'll put a link to that down below. But in that book, it's more like a novel, whereas this one is definitely non-fiction. It's more like an essay, and it's only 80 pages. But Édouard Louis really packs a lot into it. He kind of discusses, basically it's about his father, so it's called Who Killed My Father, and it's about his father and his father's deteriorating health and his life and work as a working class man living in France, and the way the system treated him and the way his lived experience shaped who he became, and then subsequently shaped who Édouard Louis became and what his life experience was. I just love the way Édouard Louis articulates ideas and thoughts and explores them. If you feel like you're on a journey with him in his writing, I just think it's brilliant. This one explores a lot, like male-generated violence. There's definitely content warnings, which I put on Storygraph for this book. But yeah, it really explores toxic masculinity, male-generated violence, and the way in which poor people are demonised in society, and I just think it's cracking. Again, another great piece by Édouard Louis. I really want to read The End of Eddy, because that's a novel based on his dad's lived experience, so I think that's going to be really, really moving, and I think that reading it in companion with this non-fiction is just going to be fantastic. So I really want to do that soon, and that's become a real priority for me. I also finished Being Jazz, which was the memoir I was listening to the audiobook of, and I enjoyed that. It didn't really add anything in terms of information to my kind of understanding of the lived experience of trans people, but I think if you have never read anything about that topic, that's quite an interesting place to start, and might kind of provide a bit of an introduction, because there's quite a lot of information, and Jennings really trying to kind of be an advocate and kind of stand up and speak about transgender issues in a way that allows people to understand them. So I think that's quite a good one for people who are sort of trying to find a text to read that might help them to understand a bit more about transgender people, transgender issues. I think that it is interesting, and I did like Jazz's perspective. It was very interesting actually reading it alongside Felix Ever After, because this features a trans teen, and obviously Jennings' memoir is about a transgender teen. So it was quite interesting to read them side by side. I haven't yet finished Felix Ever After. I am 90 pages in. I am liking this. I don't love it as much as I hoped I'd love it. Like, I thought I would be really invested in it, and I can't quite put my finger on why. I don't know if it's because it's YA and maybe I'm just not feeling YA right now, or if it's the tone of the book. I'm not really sure. I just can't put my finger on it, but there's nothing that I can really think that's actually wrong with this book in any way, and I'm not really planning on DNFing it. I think that I'm going to set it aside, or place on a lower priority for the rest of this readathon. There's only a day left in the readathon. My plans for tomorrow, my main plan is to read On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden, which is a graphic novel. It's quite a chunky graphic novel. I think it's over 500 pages, but it looks fantastic. The art style just looks really up my street. And it's about, it's a sort of romance set in space, a space opera with a romance plot line. I just think it sounds brilliant. And I think it'll be good for the bingo board prompt. I'm hoping it's going to bring me joy, and it'll be good for that prompt on the bingo board. So yeah, I'm really keen to read that tomorrow. I've been saving it all week for a kind of time when I have some uninterrupted reading time. So that's my plan for some of the day tomorrow. I would also love to be able to read Don't Call Us Dead by Danez, which is a poetry collection which I've had on my radar for a number of months now and really wanted to pick up. And I think it could be just a good time to read it. So I might read a few of those before bed. Between all the books that I was reading today, I think I have read 290 pages, which is just obscene. So I'm excited for the final day of the readathon. I'm quite kind of like amazed that I've managed to keep up my 100 pages a day, and also quite surprised by how quickly the readathon has come to an end. It's quite a quick week, but I've done so much reading. I've amazed myself with how much I have read, so I'm really pleased with that, and looking forward to the final day tomorrow. Time for my final check-in, and what a week it has been. Just again a normal week in my life, but like a really nice reading week. I've read so many good things and just had such a nice time dedicating so much time to reading. It's been lovely. Today was no different. We had a really nice day. This evening we made burgers, which were delicious. I'll put a picture up on the screen because they were just wow. And we had some Icelandic beer, which was lovely. And it was just a really nice day today. It was also a good day in terms of reading. I read the entirety of On a Sunbeam, which was just really, really enjoyable. It did bring me joy. I really enjoyed it. There is rep for female-female relationships and also non-binary rep. So I really, really enjoyed this. In the beginning, it's quite slow burn, and I was kind of thinking, goodness, this is going to take a while to kind of get through if it's this kind of slow, but then the pace really quickens, and before you know it, you're really turning those pages quickly. I loved the art style. It was really, really pretty, and just yeah, really enjoyed it and would recommend that one. I also really enjoyed reading the poetry collection Don't Call Us Dead, which I finished just now. It's a really powerful collection. I think what is so moving about certain poetry collections is the way they transport you to different people's lives, different places sometimes, but it's just this feeling of being transported somewhere completely different, and that's definitely what happened in this collection. It was very, very moving, very powerful, and the language choice is so precise. I just really enjoyed it and would really recommend it. So yeah, two really good reads to finish off the readathon. I'll probably be continuing with Felix Ever After, which I started during the readathon and kind of set aside for this final day. But I would like to continue and just see where it goes. But yeah, that's really all from me. I don't know if you can tell, the lighting is a little bit funny just now, and that is because I'm actually filming at 11 PM with natural light. So it kind of gives you an idea of just how light it is here in Iceland in the summer. We have something called midnight sun, which means that the daylight kind of lasts all day. So we always have daylight during the summer, which is really incredible, and means that around 10, 11 o'clock, the light kind of turns to, it's not full daylight, but you can see everything, and there's no darkness during the summer. So it's really incredible. And it's one of my favourite times of year. So one thing I did want to do to round off this vlog was just to kind of let you know how I did in terms of page numbers, because I was counting my pages throughout because I wanted to reach 100 pages every day. So to round off the week, I actually ended up reading 1,600 pages, which is just monumental, let's be honest with each other here, for 1 week's reading. That is a lot. 500 pages of that, to be fair, was On a Sunbeam, the massive graphic novel that I read and really, really enjoyed. But yeah, just a really large amount of reading was done in this week. The good news is that I enjoyed basically everything that I finished. I can't think of anything that I had anything particularly negative to say about. But that's everything for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed following along with what I read during Queer Lit Readathon and discovering some more LGBT books. As I said, I've linked below my video about my favourite LGBT books, and I think I might have a couple more from this week to add to that list. So that is very exciting indeed. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again in my next video. And just in case you're wondering how I got on with the bingo board, I actually managed to get quite a few bingo lines and the full rainbow, so I'm well impressed with myself. Properly impressed. There's my completed bingo board. And that's everything for this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a brilliant Pride Month, and I will see you again in my next video. Bye!